Hey, Stepsters.
Yes.
I'm Lasya.
And I'm Kritika, and we're your trainers from Future Steps.
Today, we'll be looking at the mole, your chemistry counting tool. Ever wonder how scientists count things too tiny to even see, like the atom? Welcome to the fascinating world of the chemist dozen, the mole. Get ready to discover how this special number helps scientists measure and count atoms and molecules.
So, what is a mole anyway? A mole is just like a dozen, but for super tiny things in chemistry. So, we know that a dozen of eggs means 12 eggs, and a dozen of donuts are 12 donuts. For a mole of atoms is 6.02 times 10 to the 23 atoms. We did learn about scientific notation just because we don't want to read out this entire number. And do you see this? Isn't it huge? That's a whole lot of atoms.
So meet the Avogadro's number. This is the magic number in chemistry, named after the scientist Amedeo Avogadro. This special number is 6.022 times 10 to the power of the 23rd. And like Kritika talked before, this is scientific notation. So if you want more examples of these, you can go and check our video out to learn more about scientific notations. And also, you can search in Google for many examples if you want to more practice on how to write significant figures. Well, let's jump into what Avogadro's number is. This is a huge number, and it tells us exactly how many particles are in one mole. If you try to count all the stars in our galaxy or all of the grains of sand on Earth, you would still have fewer things than in just one mole. Isn't that crazy?
Mhm. So, the mole connects mass and number. Different elements have different masses. Just like different candies have different weights, atoms of different elements weigh different amounts. And these you can see these on the periodic table. And we have gone through the periodic table in our periodic table video, so you can always go back and look at that if you're ever confused. The mole helps us count by weighing. A mole of carbon atom weighs 12.01 grams. A mole of water A mole of water molecules weighs 18.02 grams. And remember, water is H2O. So that would be a combination of the weights of the two the two hydrogens and the one oxygen. So always remember to see. So every time you're calculating the mole or the weight, you can always just weigh it on a on a measure, but you could also do it mathematically, and that we'll talk about later on. Now, why does this matter? Scientists can count huge numbers of tiny particles just by weighing them. And remember when we talked about the Avogadro's number? You really wouldn't want to count that much, will you? This is why this matters.
Now let's look at molar mass and the periodic table. The periodic table is your mole counting cheat sheet. The number at the bottom of each element tells you its molar mass. So carbon, which is C, has an atomic mass of 12.01. So this actually means that 1 mole of carbon is equal to 12.01 grams. And another example is oxygen, which is O, and it has an atomic mass of 16.00. So it just means that 1 mole of oxygen is equal to 16.00 grams. Look at Look for the numbers at the bottom of each element box in the periodic table. That's the total molar mass in grams.
Now let's talk about another home experiment. Okay, so the materials you're going to need is a kitchen scale, spoon, and a bag of rice. The procedure is Count exactly 10 grains of rice. Weigh these 10 grains. For example, let's say it's 0.03 grams. Now calculate how many grains in 1 gram. So we know that 10 grains is 0.03 grams. So we just have to divide 1 by that amount to get how many grains, which is about 33 grains. Now weigh 100 grams of rice, and you've just counted about 3,300 grains without even counting, which is crazy, isn't it? This is exactly how scientists use the mole. They weigh substances instead of counting individual atoms. Because if you had to count 3,300 grains, it would take ages, but just weighing 100 grams is a lot easier.
So now let's look at an example of how to calculate moles. So using moles in calculations. The question, how many grams are in 2 moles of helium, also known as He in the periodic table? So step 1, find helium on the periodic table, or you can also look at it being He on the periodic table. Its molar mass is about 4.00 grams per mole. Step 2, multiply 2 moles times 4.00 grams per mole. And that gives you the amount of grams, which is 8.00 grams in this case. The answer, you would write it in this format. 2 moles of helium weighs 8.00 grams.
Okay, question time. If you have 32 grams of oxygen, which is which has which is O on the periodic table, so that's its symbol, how many moles do you have? Think about what the periodic table tells you about oxygen's molar mass. Try to solve this on your own before looking at the next slide. So just pause the video right now and calculate this before we tell you the answer.
Okay, hopefully you paused and you did your calculations, but now let's look at our answer. So step 1 is to find the information, right? So look up oxygen O on the periodic table, and then you find the molar mass of oxygen, which is usually at the bottom of that box of the element. And in this case, the molar mass of oxygen is 16.00 grams per mole. Step 2 is to calculate. So divide the given mass by the molar mass. So in this case, it's 32.00 grams divided by 16.00 grams per mole. And your answer would be 2 moles. So the answer is you have 2 moles of oxygen. And if you got it right, great job. But if you didn't, make sure to keep practicing and I'm sure you'll get better at it.
Mhm. Now let's have a summary of the mighty mole. So the mole is how chemists count huge numbers of tiny particles. So the mole is the chemist's counting tool. And then we talked about the Avogadro special number, which was 6.022 times 10 to the 23, which is the magic number for 1 mole, and it's a huge number. And then we know that the periodic table can help us with calculating the mole. So use the periodic table to find molar mass and connect masses to moles. Now keep exploring the amazing world of chemistry. Do more questions, continue practicing, and if you didn't get the question right, then you should keep practicing because that will be really nice. And don't worry about it. You can always go back into this video, look at our explanations, and you can master the mole. So that is all we have for you today. Continue practicing, comment down any questions you have, any concerns, anything at all. And that's all we have for you today. See you in our next video then. Goodbye.
Stepsters.